tell you that Chief Mondor is keeping analytics on this, on the work of the social worker. And I'm sure that we'll have a report soon coming up, okay?
Thank you.
You bet. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick suggestion on our peer comparison sheet. If you go down the columns of population, tax capacity, current expenditures, and total expenditures, it's fascinating to find out that if you look at all the cities that are close to us, one way or the other in population, and then you go across, we don't look like such bad people, by the way.
Right.
And we are above the population numbers for all those people in the 30s. So some of our neighbors can quit bragging about how much better off people are there, because they're not.
Thank you, Councilmember Juniman. With that, there are no further questions. Ms. Paulseth, is there anything else you want to contribute?
No, I would just like to, if anybody had any real quick input on, are we on the right track here with our ARPA funding? Is there
From my
something-
perspective, yes,
Yes.
you are on the right track. I think people's heads are nodding up here. Yes,
Okay.
I think you're on the right track.
I'm happy to see the blight removal piece.
Yes, very
Yes,
happy
and,
to see that.
If you would like more to go towards that, we can try to work that out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Ms. Paulseth. And with that, we will be adjourned for our workshop. And why don't we reconvene? Let's take 5 minutes, and we'll reconvene for our city council meeting. Did you give him the signal? Good evening and welcome to the Monday, August 9th Maplewood City Council meeting. Tonight, just a couple of points. Things are starting to look a little bit more normal out there. We had a groundbreaking this week. It was really pretty exciting. I know Councilmember Villavicencio, Councilmember Knudsen, Councilmember Junim, and myself were there. There was a groundbreaking over at our new fire station over at County Road C and Hazelwood. Very exciting. It's amazing. The old building, 49 years old. It's gone. It was gone in a matter of hours, and they're working on the footings right now. It's really fun to drive by and to see how that is going to be changing over the next few months, especially the next few months, because it's going to be at least enclosed before the snow flies. So stay tuned for that. It really is kind of fun, and there's a lot of equipment over there. So I'm sure kids would really like to go over and take a look at that. We also had National Night Out last week, and boy, that sure felt nice to get out and see people. I know I ran into our police and fire staff out there at so many different of our registered events. There were, I think, 60 events, and I actually ran into a couple that registered with the National Night Out, but didn't register with Maplewood. So there were actually more than 60 events that were happening in our city, and I made it to 7 of them. I tried to kind of pick out an area, and I certainly got out and talked to a lot of people. I thought tonight what we would do is maybe, I want to hear from our other council members, give you an opportunity, because I know we were all out for National Night Out. So Councilmember Villavicencio, want to say a couple words about your experience with National Night Out?
Yeah, well, it was a beautiful night. I made it to 6 of them, and I had my little trailer on the back with my snacks, and we just rode around, and it was great to see the fire and police out, and all the kids jumping in and out of the vehicles and having a good time. It was just a great night. So thanks to everyone who hosted, because, it's kind of a lot of work, too. You got people coming over. And somebody from America's Got Talent was at one of them. And I know there was some churches that had some really big shindigs. It was a great time. So thanks, everybody.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Yeah, I agree with Nikki. It was a fun evening. I did about 6. And, I was able, with that kind of time, to really sit and talk with people. People were just excited to get out, talk to their neighbors. And I ran into kids of my neighbors that are living in a different neighborhood that I didn't know. So that was kind of fun, but it was a great night.
It was. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm falling apart in my old age, I guess. I only got to 3 this year, but that's because I got held up at a couple with good conversations. So I thought, okay, do I want quantity or quality? They were really a lot of fun, and in one of the neighborhood closest to me was a brand new couple who just moved in the neighborhood last fall, and they thought it'd be a good way to meet neighbors. So they opened their house to the neighborhood, and there were lots of little kids. There's some houses turning over, and around 8:30, people were starting to dribble away, and all of a sudden, up came the ambulance and the fire truck, and it was just like a big whoosh. These kids would all turning around, going "No, no, no!" to their parents and heading for the fire truck. So the party went on a little longer. They're always the hit of the night, and it was fun to see. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
And Councilmember Cave.
And I want to say it was a wonderful night. I got to about 3 of them also. I had another event to go to, so I thought I went down to the south and ran into some old neighbors that had family down there too. Wonderful to see people out and all the kids. I can't believe all the kids that are out there. And they were loving all the events. I went to a potluck, which was one of my favorites. And yeah, well, I knew the people there. But I really want to thank the fire department and police department for getting around and just being a presence out there. I think that was really important. I know some of my neighbors said that was really eventful for the kids to see the police and the fire. And I think in the community, with everything that's been going on this last year and stuff, that was Maplewood's such a positive community with police and fire, and I think that was just another avenue to show that, and I think that was great.
Thank you very much, council members. All right, then let's move to our agenda, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Sint, would you please do our roll call for us?
Councilmember Knutson,
Here.
Councilmember Villavicencio,
Here.
Councilmember Cave,
Here.
Councilmember Juniman,
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
Here. Thank you very much. Council members, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? I'm going to jump right in on this because I understand that there was a resolution concerning G4 that was not included in the packet. City Clerk Sint, do you want to just explain a little bit about that? We now have copies in the back for people, but it also will be included online, won't it?
Mayor and Council, yes. Chief Mondor just brought it to our attention that that was missed. The item, the report, and all of the other supporting documents are in the packet. The resolution, however, was missed. So you have that in front of you. There is one out for the public copy, and we will put that in the packet for permanent record.
And for those people who are watching, it has to do with the resolution directing modification of existing construction contract change order number 2 and number 3 for the North Fire Station construction project. Thank you for that. Any other additions to the agenda? I'm going to add Rice Larpenter to the agenda under council presentations. Councilmember Villavicencio, you attended 2 events in the last 2 days. Would you like to talk about those when we get to council presentations? Do you want to tell us what those were?
Do you mean the Filipino event and the Suni Lee event?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll add those 2. Okay. Anything else, council members? Okay, then let's move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes, the July 26, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the July 26, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Appointments and presentations, administrative presentations, council calendar update. We have Assistant City Manager Sable sitting in for us tonight, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The council calendar update is just a way to forecast potential items that are coming up, items of interest for the council. At the August 23rd workshop, there will be another discussion of the 2022 budget and the American Rescue Plan funding. If you were part of the workshop earlier today, this will sound very familiar. I also, it's not written in your packet, but I did want to alert the council that there will be a potential closed legal session regarding labor negotiation strategy for 2021 and 2022. And then just a forecast on September 13th, there will be a vote on the preliminary levy for 2022. Also wanted to make note under the council comments related to charitable gambling. If you remember, this conversation was brought up for potential ways to streamline the process for the charitable gambling proceeds. The policy question that's often asked is it better to give out a large number of small dollar donations or a fewer number of donations at a larger dollar amount? And if you did that, what were the potential categories? And the city manager sent out a survey with Lois Knutson identifying potential categories for funding. And at your spot on the podium, there is a rough scoring for that. And we've identified 6 broad categories for potential consideration. And in the scoring that we have, social supports and youth activities were tied for first 1 and 2, followed by environment and natural resources, and then safety, and then finally engagement efforts and events, and then proceeds for seniors. I guess the question, the broad question I would pose to the city council from a staff perspective, is this something you would like to see us do one category every year, so everybody would get a turn every 6 years? Or is there a way that you would want them combined into maybe every 3 years or every 2 years? Staff is open to doing whatever the direction of the council is, but we want to get some clarity around, are these the right categories, and then what's the proper duration for funding? And I'll
Thank you, Mr.
participate when
Sable.
you need me.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. I actually spoke with Mr. Sable about this today because I really want us, my goal was to really fully fund applications so that people just don't leave the money on the table. And, that has happened. That's why we have gotten so much money in our charitable gambling fund. And so it seems to me that, we've got basically 6 different categories. If we were to pair the categories up, 2 per year, that way people will know what our funding is going to be like for a 3-year period of time, and they can adjust their applications. And I just suggested, I want to hear from the rest of the council and see what you think too, but otherwise, if we do 6 of them, I'm concerned we won't have enough applications. And so I think putting them together, though, it will focus it, and we are more likely that we are going to fully fund these applications. So, Councilmember Juniman, I think you were first.
Yes, I think we should, but 6 is too many, I agree, because at a 6-year rotation, people will just get lost in it, and they'll think we're not doing it at all anymore, some of them. I think there's, possibly 2 at a time, so it will be a 3-year rotation. I think that's a good idea. And we can say something about fully fund or sufficiently fund, because sometimes we are a piece of somebody's whole funding program. So we could still allow them to say, we need this much to complete our project or whatever, because I don't want to necessarily say if we can't give them everything, it isn't worth it. There's a happy medium, I guess.
I think that is actually one of the questions that we have had on the applications. Would you be benefited by less than your full request?
I'm the one who actually put that on there after years of tearing my hair. But I think we can afford to be more specific if we're going to narrow it to just topics. We could probably hone that question in a little better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cave, your thoughts?
I would agree with the at least 2 groups in a 3-year span, but I also think we also need to look at if we have the type of funding. If we have a lot of funding some year, which would be a great problem to have, then we can look at maybe adding another one. But I think 2 would be very nice. And I think, like Kathy said, with some of the groups having partial, that's really important to know that in the application.
So in terms of combining, I think social supports was the first one. If we combined maybe 1 and 6, I don't know. Well, does anyone have any thoughts on how you would like to combine, or do we want to have staff just suggest to us? Okay, something that would make sense.
Yes.
Okay.
We can disagree if we don't.
Yeah.
Councilman?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Sable, we're going to toss this back to staff to come up with some logical combinations. So then we will, and I think it's a good idea when we put the applications out for this fall, if we let people know 2021 is going to be these 2 kinds of topics, 2022 is going to be these 2 kind of topics, so that then people will know what years they're more likely to be funded. Does that sound reasonable? Okay, Mr. Sable.
Thank you. Clarity is achieved. Thank you.
Okay, very good. You'll give us the clarity back, and we'll let you know if we don't think it's clear. Yeah. Does that work for you? Do you want to talk about the events that are coming up too?
Certainly, Mayor. So just on tomorrow, there is a North End engagement virtual meeting on Zoom that is available for folks to talk about redevelopment around the mall. On Saturday, August 14th, there is the Rice Larpenter Summer Block Party from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. On the 25th of August is the second North End engagement meeting. That one is going to be held at Maplewood Mall. More information is available on our website. And then if there is also an opportunity for the City Council to participate in a staff celebration. We are going to hold a picnic to recognize and appreciate staff on Thursday, September 9th from 11 to 1. I believe the answer is going to be there will be a food truck or two available as a staff employee picnic. For the community on September 11th, there is going to be a Touch a Truck event at Maplewood Mall with public safety and public works staff is there. And then a reminder again on Thursday, October 7th, there is a City Council staff retreat that is an all-day event beginning at 8:30.
Thank you very much. Moving on to council presentations. I will follow up with the Rice Larpenter event. I actually have some flyers. I think maybe City Clerk, I'll ask you to put these on the back table if anyone would like to take one. It is obviously at Rice Larpenter. It's the block party, summer block party, from 11 to 3. There's going to be lawn games, face painting. There will be a climbing wall. Once again, our police and fire are going to be there. There are going to be food samples, and those are always really good. There will be local performances. Bands are going to be playing, and there will be, and so much more. So if you are looking for some fun, free entertainment for the summer, please come to the Rice Larpenter Summer Block Party, okay? Councilmember Villavicencio, I know you have been busy. We ran into each other on Saturday night. Why don't you talk about those two events?
Sure, thank you. Well, it was so nice on Saturday. Not everybody knows this, but in the heart of Maplewood, we have the Filipino Center of Minnesota, and every year they have a coronation of their young folks, and the young people get to decide what they want to fundraise for. And they decided to fundraise for the lift to go in, actually the old City Hall of Maplewood. And so it's kind of an interesting connection with the city and the Filipinos, and it was just an honor for the mayor and I to be there. The mayor spoke, and it was just a beautiful night, and great to see young people doing so many great things in our community. And then Sunday, there was an awesome parade that ended up in Maplewood at the Aldrich Arena, and it was the Suni Lee celebration, and that too was a great event. And thank you to all the EMTs and the fire and the police that were there for that, because it was a successful, safe event, and it was a beautiful time to have everybody together celebrating a gold medalist from the east side, Maplewood, and our area. We're kind of neighbors of the east side. So so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, the retirement of Canine Officer Cody. Public Safety Director Beardeman, this is your topic tonight. My favorite meetings are always swearing new people in and dog meetings. It's just wonderful. Cody has joined us, and Cody has a toy with him.
Keep him occupied, hopefully. He was getting a little anxious out there.
Mayor and Council, Maplewood has a rich and storied tradition of canines going all the way back to 1977, which coincidentally is the year I was born. All right, you got me there. During that time, we've only had 12 canine teams, and so it's a very select group of individuals that are allowed to serve as canine handlers. I know this well. I had a canine for 10 years. I've also supervised a canine unit for 14 years, and I've worked alongside Todd and Cody. Todd's been an officer for 16 years now. Cody coming up on 6 years. And I can tell you firsthand that Todd is one of the finest officers I've worked side by side with. He's a leader. He's a mentor. He's one of our best FTOs, one of our best trainers, and he's been one of our best handlers. Tonight we're here to really honor the service of this canine unit of Officer Todd Langer and Cody, and I just want to read a quick excerpt from a poem that I think really summarizes the bond between a handler and their canine. When it's too hard to look back and you're too afraid to look ahead, look right beside you, and I'll be there. My eyes are your eyes to watch and protect you. My ears are your ears to hear and detect unknown evil in the dark. My nose is your nose to scent the invader of your domain. And so you may live, my life is also yours. And I think that last line really summarizes the bond between canine handler and their dog. We send cops out there every night to put their life on the line, but the canine goes a little further. They go about 20 feet further on a lead, and they go into the darkness where the cops can go, but it really puts them in much more danger. So, again, this officer is willing to give their life for the community and for their canine handler. Todd started his canine career in 2015-2016 when he was selected to be a canine handler. He attended canine school through the St. Paul Police Department Canine Academy. And I can tell you from experience, it's 10 grueling weeks of canine training. You'll lose about 15 pounds, and the dog picks up the entire training in about 2 weeks, and it takes a handler the rest of the 10 weeks to really catch up to the dog and what the dog can do. And so that's the extent of the training. In 2018, Todd's canine team received the United States Police Canine Association Case of the Quarter. They caught a prolific burglar who was lying in wait in a construction site for officers. Canine Cody sniffed him out, alerted to the suspect's presence, and he received an award for that. This canine team, in their short amount of time as a canine team, have had over 175 canine deployments, which I think is impressive. But really, when I look at this canine team and other canine teams that we've had, really the biggest asset that this team has brought the city is really Todd and his canine partner Cody's ability to really reach out to the community. They love doing community outreach. They've done countless hours of community outreach, thousands of hours of training with the community and youth. And Todd was asked recently what he's going to miss most about being a cop, and he said really it's that community outreach and bringing the dog out. Again, as a handler, I know that when you let that dog out of the car, the kid's eyes light up, and it really helps form that relationship between community and officer. Officer Todd Langner and Canine Cody will both be retiring from service at the completion of their tour tomorrow, Tuesday, August 10th at midnight. It's customary in Maplewood that ownership be transferred from the city of Maplewood to the handler as we recognize this unbreakable bond between handler and canine team. Officer Todd Langner agrees to take full responsibility of Canine Cody pending a resolution as we acknowledge that the useful service of this canine team has unfortunately come to an end. I wish both Todd and Cody the best in their retirement. It's well deserved. You guys have worked hard. You've done the city proud. And I think before we do the resolution, Officer Todd Langner and maybe Cody have a word to say.
Probably not so much Cody, but Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for the time. I heard you, I was watching backstage there. You guys talked about night to night, and it was my day off. I had 2 more days left to work, and I came in and worked 5 hours for that. It is a tremendous asset to the city for us to be able to get out there and make those positive contacts with people, and what a great tool this is right here. Everybody loves the dog. Didn't get to as many houses as I would have liked, because sometimes I get tied up. I start telling them stories, I start telling them about the dog, and I start to lose track of time. My wife was kind enough to come out this last year, and she handed out stickers for me. I've got, if you need them, I've got a few extra I Met Cody stickers in my car if we need them at the end of the night. But I appreciate your consideration for this resolution. Cody has been an awesome partner with me for the last 6 years, and I appreciate your continued support for the canine unit here. Not only is it a great law enforcement tool, but it's a tremendous PR tool, and especially in the time that we're in right now, we need additional PR tools to help make that bond between the public and the police. So I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your service. We
Thank you.
really appreciate it. Council members, we have 2 motions that we have before us. The first one is the motion to approve the attached resolution pertaining to the retirement and ownership of Maplewood service dog Cody, and then the motion to approve the attached agreement to assume ownership of retired canine. So let's take the first one. Yes. Please.
It is my pleasure to be able to read the resolution, although I have to comment, I don't think either you or the dog are old enough to retire, just so I'd say that.
I would agree with that. On both accounts, actually.
Okay, well, maybe we could just get him to volunteer to come back to go to community stuff with his dog. What do you think? I mean, I'd sort of like to be a mouse in your house the first few days, he's all of a sudden retired at his ripe old age?
It'll be interesting.
Yes.
It's going to take more than a few days
I
before
think so.
he starts to unwind.
Yes. This is a resolution pertaining to the retirement and ownership of Maplewood Police Service Dog Cody, and of course, Officer Todd Langer. Whereas the Maplewood Police Department has had a successful police service dog canine program that has honorably and ably served the city for many years, and whereas in 2015, Maplewood Police Officer Todd Langer was selected to serve as the department's police service dog handler and completed a comprehensive and demanding training program with his canine partner, Cody. He's saying, "Would you hurry up? I'm bored." Look at him. Whereas upon completion of the training program, Officer Todd Langer and Cody began a successful partnership to the service for the city. Whereas Officer Todd Langer and Cody were responsible for the apprehension of more than 120 criminal suspects and the effective and efficient execution of countless building and evidence searches. And whereas during their partnership, Cody and Officer Todd Langer demonstrated the unique skills and abilities of police service dogs to thousands of local residents and visitors at community, civic, and school events. And whereas Cody will retire from service with the Maplewood Police Department at the completion of his tour of duty on the morning of August 10th, 2021. Whereas the relationship between a police officer handler and a service dog is unique and storied, and it is commonplace for the official ownership of the retired police service dog to be transferred to the owner-handler partner. And whereas Officer Todd Langer has agreed to assume full ownership, responsibility, and care of Cody for the remainder of his days, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Maplewood, Minnesota as follows: that the faithful, valued, and community service of Maplewood Police Service Dog Cody is hereby acknowledged and lauded, and that the care and training of Cody provided by Maplewood Police Officer Todd Langer is recognized and commended. That full ownership, responsibility, and care for Cody shall be transferred to Officer Todd Langer in accordance with the agreement to that effect, no matter how obnoxious he gets. That transfer of ownership to Officer Todd Langer shall be without remuneration in recognition of the special bond and unique characteristics of police service dogs. And that the City Council extends its gratitude to Officer Todd Langer for the competent care of his canine partner and publicly acknowledges Cody's well-deserved transition from police service to family pet. That the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to execute the accompanying agreement transferring ownership from the city to Officer Todd Langer, adopted this 9th day of August, 2021.
Is there someone to move the motion?
I hereby move to approve the attached resolution pertaining to the retirement and ownership of Maplewood service dog Cody and his officer, Todd Langer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the attached resolution pertaining to the retirement and ownership of Maplewood service dog Canine Cody. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We have one other motion. Would someone like to make that?
I move to approve the agreement to assume ownership of retired canine by Officer Todd Langer.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the attached agreement to assume ownership of retired canine. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And Cody, thank you for your service.
Can we clap for you?
Sure.
Okay. I know.
He's thinking, that's for me, you know.
I thought maybe he was going to chew that thing in half, but that was a lot of time.
Do we want to take a picture? Would you mind us
No,
taking a
sure,
picture with the
absolutely.
council?
Oh, good.
All right.
Okay.
It's always good when you have something on a dog, so they don't look at us.
Yes.
They say never to work with kids or pets.
No. Yes, sir. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. So much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
6 years old, he's
Do you
just
still
getting
have
started.
your wheat and terror? Is that what you have?
Airedale.
Airedale.
We're number 6. We're not very
So
smart.
beautiful. They're so beautiful.
The one we have now is such a nerd that I love him to death.
Have you always had boys?
No, we
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next agenda item, it's a resolution of appreciation for Bruce Thompson, Community Design Review Board. Mr. Thompson, this one is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So Bruce Thompson, who served on the Community Design Review Board for about 2.5 years, moved out of the city, and so unfortunately for us has resigned from his role as a commissioner on the CDRB. Bruce was a tremendous asset to have on CDRB. He was, as you know, had a facilities background at the county. He was always very insightful and brought a very professional and rational perspective as he reviewed the design applications coming forward. So we brought for you tonight a resolution of appreciation to recognize Bruce for his service on the CDRB, and do recommend that the council adopt that resolution recognizing his time in Maplewood.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is there a motion concerning the motion to approve a resolution of appreciation for CDRB member Bruce Thompson?
I move the resolution of appreciation for Bruce Thompson, Community Design Review Board.
I second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Villavicencio. The motion to approve a resolution of appreciation for Community Design Review Board member Bruce Thompson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for your service. We have another resolution, Mr. Thompson, concerning Matt Ledvina.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So a lot of life changes for members of our CDRB, and Matt Ledvina also moved out of the city of Maplewood recently. And so he has accordingly resigned his position on the CDRB. Matt has served for 24 years, 25 years. For a long, long time, he has been on the CDRB. As you know, he's a design professional himself, so he really had brought the design. He knew the details of the plans, and he really, I think he bettered every project that he reviewed. And I haven't been here nearly as long as Matt has, but I know he worked hard on for example, the Hy-Vee project and the Fast and Fresh design. And I think you can drive through the community and see a lot of Matt's influence on better projects in Maplewood as a result of his long service on the CDRB. So we have also brought a resolution recognizing him for his service and recommend the council adopt that recognizing Mr. Ledvina for his service.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the resolution of appreciation for Matt Ledvina from the Community Design Review Board after a very long career.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve a resolution of appreciation for CDRB board member Matt Ledvina. Is there any further discussion?
Can't believe he moved out of that beautiful yard he created. Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, then all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Ledvina. With those two resignations, I just want to alert everyone that we do have some openings on our citizen advisory committees. We now have 2 openings on our Community Design Review Board, the CDRB. It is a 5-member advisory board. They review building designs, site plans, landscaping for proposed multifamily, commercial, and industrial development. One of those vacancies has to be filled by a design, construction, or property professional, and the other one has to be filled by a lay person, and both have to be Maplewood residents. We also have openings on our Environmental and Natural Resources Commission and the Heritage Preservation Commission. So if any of you out there listening want to serve on a city commission, here's your opportunity. Go to the city's website and the applications will be there. Thank you, council members. And now we move to our next agenda item, our strategic plan update for the second quarter of 2021. The presenter is going to be Mr. Sable or Ms. Knutson. Ms. Knutson, welcome.
Lois Knutson, and I am the Administrative Services and Performance Measurement Coordinator for the City of Maplewood. My job includes a wide variety of tasks, but one of my major areas of focus is overseeing our city's strategic plan. We just finished our second quarter reporting. We use a product called Invisio that helps us to put everything together into a nice, clean report. At the end of the second quarter, we are at 58% progress on the plan, which is pretty good. We're halfway through the year, and so we're doing well. There was disruption on about 12% of our plan, but most of those were just minor disruptions. There was one major disruption, and that is related to our rental licensing program. One of the requirements for property managers is that they complete a crime-free training. And that was disrupted due to the pandemic, but they're trying to make efforts to get that back on track. I'm going to go through our strategic priorities, all 6 of them, and just give a few highlights on each one of what's going on right now. Community inclusiveness. One of our goals is to have our workforce here at the city closely resemble the community that we live in. And we are making progress towards that. We are right now at 13.6% of our workforce are diverse, and that is up from 9.8% in 2016. A big part of community inclusiveness are our outreach events, and those are starting to happen again. In the second quarter, we held the 4th of July fireworks. It was not our normal event with food trucks and inflatables, but many families were able to make it to Hazelwood Park to enjoy the fireworks. National Night Out, as mentioned earlier, was held last week, and there were over 60 block parties, which appear to have been very well attended. And then our Nature Center has had its first in-person class, and from what I hear, there was actually a waiting list to get into the class, so that's great too. Financial sustainability. Once again, we've been recognized for our financial reporting. We achieved an excellent bond rating of AA+ with S&P. We received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for 2021. And the general fund performance exceeded expectations, and the city ended 2020 with a surplus. And we continue to actually be doing quite well financially. But you'll decide that when you figure out the budget. Infrastructure and asset management. A lot of the areas that we're looking at here are public works projects. This includes things like our sewer mains, street reconstruction and rehabilitation projects, as well as patching and paving. This year there are 2 street reconstruction projects going on, and they total 5.34 miles of road that is being replaced, and that is on track and scheduled to be completed in 2021. Our goal is 3.5 miles a year, so we are above that here with the 5.34. 171 ash trees have been removed in 2021, and that's to help us control the spread of emerald ash borer. I believe they told me there's like 7 more that are tagged to be removed, and that hasn't been done yet. So that should be done later this year. We've also done several parks improvements, which include upgrades to tennis courts and basketball courts. And then there were a few unplanned parks improvements due to some fires. There was a fire at the playground equipment at Gethsemane Park, and they're on track to get that replaced this year as well. Fortunately, that's mostly covered by insurance. Integrated communication. Traditional media, meaning the Star Tribune and the Pioneer Press, have recently featured at least 5 stories about Maplewood, and I believe they were all very positive stories. We've had a smooth transition back to in-person meetings, and we have a continued active presence on social media. That includes the city pages of just the City of Maplewood, the public safety pages, park and recreation pages, and the Public Works page, and the mayor's page. We also have, we're planning for our branding initiative. That kind of got disrupted by COVID and things around that, but plans are underway, and you should be hearing more about that later this year. Operational effectiveness. This contains measures from each department just of how their day-to-day operations work and what we can do to make sure we're on track and improving things. Our wellness program, we had 80% participation in our first trimester of the year, and that's up 10% from 2017. And if you've heard about our wellness program, you know that when our wellness program is doing well and people are participating, it's reflected in our insurance rates. So we had a few years with 0% increase, and then I think we had a slight increase last year, but we're doing great, and it's all because of our wellness program. We maintain Green Step City Step 5 status for the 5th consecutive year, and as far as I know, there's nowhere to go above that at this time.
Right.
The fire department has a goal to respond to all emergency incidents in 8 minutes or less, and their goal is to do that in 90% of incidents, and in the last quarter they were at 90.66, so they are doing well. Reported motor vehicle thefts and thefts from vehicles were down in the second quarter. And then in the community development department, the Excella software is being actively used to manage building inspections and permits. The next step with that software is to launch the public access portal to allow for more efficient online submissions of applications. Targeted redevelopment. One of the main focuses of that right now is our rental licensing program. And they have reported that the common areas of multifamily buildings have all been inspected, and that is 80 buildings, approximately. And then the next step will be to inspect the individual units, and that will be starting soon. In regard to the North End redevelopment, as you've heard with the upcoming events, there's a couple of employee engagement events coming up in the next few weeks. And they also wanted to create a transit-oriented development district, and that has been completed. So that's another step in the right direction toward that development. What's new? Well, one of the new things in Invisio is they have an analytics module, which we just added. And this is, before it was very basic charts and graphs, and you couldn't have a lot of variables and things. So with this new module, we are able to measure multiple things at the same time. We've updated about half of our graphs in the report that you saw, and our goal is to get the rest done by the end of the quarter. It's very simple to update. The person doing the reporting just has to enter the latest data into Excel, basically an Excel spreadsheet, the data source, and then the graphs are automatically updated and the reports are automatically updated. So it will make things a little bit easier. Then the ICMA has a program for awarding certificates in performance management. The certificates are awarded on the basis of criteria that include data collection and verification, training and support, public reporting, accountability and process improvement, networking, and leadership. So a lot of things tied to our strategic plan. And there are 3 levels of recognition: achievement, distinction, and excellence, which is the highest level. And we completed the application in May, and we are waiting to hear if we have at least achieved the minimum level of achievement, but we will keep you updated on that when we get more information. And then there's something else that isn't even in this report because it just happened last week. Our staff met with Invisio and Craig Rapp, who is a local government consultant, and they are forming a new initiative that would create a high-performing, transparent government cohort. And this will be made up of cities who use Invisio to report on their strategic plan. And then they would meet periodically. You'd learn from other groups what other cities are doing, get some ideas, what's working, what's not. And then another big part of it is they're going to include benchmarking. So we would, with this cohort, agree on some measures that all of us are going to track, and then we can see how we are measuring up to other cities in the area. And that's all I have for now, so thank you, and do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Knudsen. That was an excellent report. I know for me, I really enjoy reviewing this every quarter. One thing that can be said about Maplewood is that we have a strategic plan. All of our council members have it on the back of our books. We look at it. It's on just about every agenda item so that we can measure, we can test, are we following our strategic plan? But we don't just wing it. We actually assess. We collect data on how we're doing, and you do a great job of kind of harnessing all of this and putting it into this format. So thank you very much. That was a great report. Council members, are there any questions or comments? That was a good report.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we need to approve this? I didn't look back at I think we do. Is there a motion? Here, let me look.
Motion to accept.
Councilmember Juniman, do you make?
We accept the strategic plan update for second quarter 2021.
Is there moved by Juniman, seconded by Knudsen, the motion to accept the strategic plan report for the second quarter of 2021. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. The motion passes. We move on to our consent agenda, and if you recall, we added the resolution to G4 for this. Is there a motion for our consent agenda?
I move approval of consent agenda items G1 through 4.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, the motion to approve the consent agenda items G1 through 4, seconded by Cave. Any further discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to highlight or hear a little bit about the change orders.
Okay. Chief Mondor, I see you're here.
What
Would you be
I read in
mobile?
there that, that there was some shortages of supplies or different types of, and I just want to know, from your point of view, if that's a trend we're going to see or if this is a unique circumstance.
Chief Mondor, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, Councilmember Knudsen, the way that the roof was constructed over the two-story part of the building called for steel joists, and the way we laid out the project timeline, there was going to be a delay in us being able to enclose the building. So we asked Krause Anderson to go back to the drawing board and try to the ultimate impact was going to be nearly $210,000 due to winter condition costs, added project time, and other project delays that we would possibly incur. We asked them to go back to the drawing board and find us the least cost option. They were able to rework how the roof was structured without compromising any of the long-term quality longevity of the fire station. And so it does represent just over $62,000, but it was not done without a lot of conversation between our subcontractors, our construction manager, the project team, to figure out how, COVID has impacted our access to supplies. And I can't guarantee you that we're not going to face other shortages or delays in project times. I was speaking with my colleague in Burnsville the other week, and they're ready to close their station up, and they can't get their garage doors. So we've asked and tasked Krause Anderson with forecasting, and that's why we have a construction management firm to look ahead as to how they can anticipate some of these things and try to minimize the cost of change orders to the extent possible. But we're doing the best we can and put them to work on several different options to identify how we can utilize the least cost option.
Exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Councilmember Juniman.
On item number 3 as well, I think we should comment on the elevator quotations, because again, I think it was the project manager who went back to get new bids because we needed an elevator, and the first bid was so outrageous that our city manager talked to him, or perhaps to Mike and then to him. But anyway, he went back and got us a much, much, much lower bid on an elevator. So that's why you have a reputable firm with a project manager to help
Exactly, that's
keep
when you
things
have
on
a
task
project manager.
and not have to pay more money.
Yeah.
Yes, Mayor and Council, to steal Mike Sable's first comment when we discussed this was, that's why you hire a construction manager.
Right.
And so council rejected the bids as they were over 33% over what we anticipated in the project. They went back, solicited, and saved were able to offset what would have been just over $60,000 in cost. So there are change orders, and there are times where they're certainly continuing to advocate to make sure that we're trying to put our best foot forward when it comes to remaining on time and on budget.
They are serving us very well.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, council members, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Any objections? Okay. Moving on, we have no public hearings, no unfinished business. We are moving on to the lot width variance resolution concerning 2010 Edgerton Street North. Mr. Thompson, this is your topic tonight.
Thank
I'll
you,
turn
and
it
Mayor.
over to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have a land use and development application from the owners of this property located on Edgerton Street. It's actually on the east side of Edgerton, between County Road B and Roselawn. It's quite a large parcel today, it's just under 3 acres in actual total size. It is a single parcel of record, and then currently has just one single-family home that's located along the front of the lot along Edgerton. One of the kind of important features of the site is Orlean Lake actually encumbers kind of the back part of the lot. So not only is that area public water, but it also, because of the proximity of this lot to that lake, the entire property does fall within the city's shoreland overlay zoning district, which has additional restrictions in place for development. Just quickly on the land use and zoning classifications for the property in our 2040 comp plan is guided for low density residential, as you can see from the map, which is the same as all of the properties on the east side of Edgerton. And then is zoned R1, which is one of our single-family residential zoning districts, where the primary permitted use is a single-family home. So ultimately, what the applicant is seeking is they would like to subdivide the property, the one lot, and subdivide it into 2 properties. The existing home, it's a little tough to see, but this is the existing house, which would remain. So they would keep the existing house on lot 1. And then lot 2 would be, go back, kind of a flag lot configuration. So there'd be a 34-foot wide width of the lot with the driveway within that portion of the lot. And then the lot would be constructed in the back of that existing house, kind of oriented towards the lake. So that would be the subdivision application they would pursue if the council approves what is first requested, which is a lot width variance. So within the R1 zoning district, there are 2 dimensional requirements in the zoning and subdivision regulations. The first is the minimum lot size, which we have with all of our zoning districts, and that's 10,000 square feet. But we also require every lot to have at least 75 feet of width at the actual street or at the right-of-way line. And then that's paralleled also in the shoreland overlay district. So in the shoreland district, we also require lots to be 75 feet in width. Because the lot is only 138 feet in width today, there's not a way to subdivide the lot into 2 lots, with each lot meeting that lot width requirement. And so as proposed at 34 feet, the proposal does require both variances from the lot width requirement of the R1 district and the shoreland district. State law and as well as our city ordinance outline the variance standard. So a variance means that we establish our zoning regulations, and if you can't meet one of the regulations, you can apply for a variance. And as I said, state law and our ordinance outline a number of criteria that have to be met in order for the city to grant a variance. I've highlighted really the three primary ones for the council's review tonight, and that's the reasonable manner test, that the proposal is generally reasonable. Second, that there are circumstances unique to the property, so there's something about this property that's unique to other properties. And then if the variance is granted, it would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or of the locality. So in applying and reviewing this application, staff and the Planning Commission have applied these standards to the proposal. Before I get into the discussion of the variance criteria, just know we did send, as we do with all development applications, notices to all the surrounding neighborhood. We did receive a number of responses, all of which were included in your packet for your review. Oftentimes, there are a lot of questions in there, too. Know that we always also respond to those emails with answering a lot of the questions, but we want to give you because they're providing some comments, want to make sure that you are aware of what the neighbors have responded with. And then what I'll walk through is we actually have a staff recommendation after our review at the staff level in community development. We do recommend denial of the variance, but after the Planning Commission's review, they did recommend approval of the variance. And so I just wanted to walk through the basis for each of those decisions. So I think staff's recommendation is based on two primary parts of the variance criteria, and that is we don't think there are circumstances unique to the property. In fact, the lot width today as it exists is very common, is very similar to pretty much all of the lots along Edgerton. They all have a very similar width to the proposed lot. And so, a lot width reduction on this lot could also be justified on other lots along Edgerton, given that we don't think there's something specifically unique to this particular lot. And then second, when we looked at just the overall pattern of homes within this neighborhood, there really are no what we call the flag lot configuration, which is the lot that has just the narrow neck out to the road with the long driveway to the house in the back. There is one other house that is set further back from Edgerton, but it actually meets the lot width requirement. So we were concerned about the impact of the variance on kind of the pattern of homes in the immediate area. So based on those two rationales, we did recommend denial of the variances to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission held the public hearing as they do with all land use applications. They are also reviewed the packet materials, the application submissions. I know the applicants presented to the Planning Commission. They weighed the criteria in the proposal before them, and I think they found that there was something unique about the property, and that's where the existing house is on the lot. They thought that was unique to this lot. And secondly, I think they pointed to the house, let's see if I can highlight it here. This house directly to the south, which, although it's not a true flag lot, has the lot set further back on the lot. So based on kind of those two things that they reviewed, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the variances. So to be, just lastly, we didn't receive any comments from engineering, environmental health, or public safety. There was a detailed environmental report included in your packet. I think of this application as kind of a three-step process. You're reviewing step one tonight, which is, is the variance reasonable and is it justified? If the council does not approve that, then the lot would remain as one and no further action would be needed. But if it were to be approved, the next step would be for the staff to administratively approve a lot division, to actually do the lot split, and then propose under the proposed house footprint where we would review all the details of grading, shoreland setback, wetland buffer, tree removal. All of that would be reviewed later on should the variance be approved by the council. But first, really your consideration tonight are the two resolutions we've included in your packet. The first, which would deny the variances, which is consistent with the staff recommendation. The second, which would approve the variances, which would be consistent with the Planning Commission recommendation. So with that, Mayor and Council, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Certainly, in reviewing all of the materials that were part of this submission, it appears to me that the majority of the neighbors who live in that area are not in favor of the variance and, in fact, support the staff's denial of the variance. And quite frankly, my inclination is to go along with the staff's denial of the variance. I understand why the homeowners would want to do this, but I agree with staff in that the circumstances are not unique to the property. I view this as this really is an economic reason. Splitting this property into 2 homes, it's not anything that's unique to that particular property. I see it as an economic issue. And I think by reducing the frontage by more than 50% is pretty significant. And I agree with you or the staff in terms of that 34-foot wide lot at the front of the property. That's just out of character for the rest of the neighborhood. So my inclination is to deny the variance. It's a tool that the city can use, but under these circumstances, I don't believe that it's warranted. I just wanted to follow up with you in one point. You said that the questions, I know that there were a number of questions that were asked. They have been answered to all of these residents. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Mayor, when we receive, we send out the notice, oftentimes the email responses we get back are comments and questions, and so we try to respond to all of those emails, responding to the questions that they have. So
Okay.
we don't include all the responses in the packet because we're just trying to get you the what came from the neighborhood.
Good. I just wanted to make sure. I think that I understand the property owners wanting to age in place, but I don't think that it should be at the expense of the neighbors making such a significant change. That's my opinion. Councilmember Knutson.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question, but I was also, liaison to the Planning Commission and listened to the presentation. I read thoroughly all the responses. I do respect the neighbors' points of view, but somehow or other, blocking their view or all that is really irrelevant. I mean, the neighbors have an interest in the lake, which could be protected by the proper setbacks and careful construction planning, all the abatements, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of went through that and saw it was a little bit more even than you did. I also did a site look at it, and what this really is a lot for the new house that conforms, more or less, in the way it reads, with a driveway problem. So my question, Mr. Thompson, is did they present any other option for a driveway, like an easement across the front of their property or something that they could do otherwise?
Mayor and Councilmember Knutson, not that I'm aware of, and just having no frontage on the public street and a driveway easement would still require the variance,
Okay,
because it
that's
would be from
my
75
question.
feet to 0 feet, so
Okay.
it wouldn't eliminate the variance.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like I say, it appears to me to be a conforming lot where they want the house with a driveway problem. And there's no way around that. I looked at the look of that whole street looks kind of varied. There was one house set back. There's even an automobile repair shop in front of someone's house. So there isn't really, a uniformity to that street. So I'm just offering, for other council members, a different point of view. And we generally like to support our planning commissions, but on the other hand, there's some significant problems with this.
Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. It also said, this thing is not liking me tonight on the button. When I first put it on, it sometimes responds to me and sometimes maybe that means I'm not supposed to say anything. In the report, it does say that the Environmental Commission also recommended denial. I think there were some concerns indicated by some of the neighbors about the future of the lake. And probably if it was only this lot that did that, it might have less impact down the road. But the fact that this would open up the ability for several other houses to possibly look for the same variance, by the time you've discovered you let the cat out of the bag, the damage to the lake could be done. So, because some of those lots, runoff is an issue. And even this one, there is a comment from the environmental planner that says, as it looks now, it's within the setbacks. But what happens when they start to dig and they have to go over the buffer zone? And once you start to do that, it's turning back is kind of a moot point, but you've done your damage. So this is a difficult one, I agree. And it was, I do think that the Planning Commission didn't do us any favors because they were chicken to say, if you're following the ordinances, this is what we have to do. And I get it, because all your neighbors love you. That's part of it, they do. But some of them are saying, but there are other things that we have to think about beyond our own lifetimes. And one of them is the health of the lake. And the other one is, even though there's that one, how that auto thing ever got there, believe me, it's from the early 40s is when that was done. So we can't even blame Maplewood because that was New Canada Township. But it just got grandfathered in. And the house that's behind that on the lake, so to speak, goes with the station. It's all one property. Like I said, how that was ever done, I'm glad I wasn't part of that action. But anyway, that's the thing. That's very out of character for the neighborhood. And this, I agree with staff recommendation that this is out of character for the neighborhood. And I do appreciate that these people love where they are and have gone to all this work to look at other places and still would like to retire here. But I don't think we can use emotion as a reason to say this is a good idea. So I get it. And if I was living there, I might even have tried the same thing. I'm not saying that. But the point of the matter is, I think if we're looking down the road and we're looking at the future of the whole strip and the whole lake, because the lake goes this is a teeny part of it. And there are actually some lots even on the further to the east that could do the same thing if we start rolling downhill. And I think it's not a good idea. I think the reason we have ordinances is that most of the time you stick to them. They were generated for a reason. And the fact that the Environmental Commission also thought this was not a good idea does weigh for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments from any council members? Councilmember Cave.
I would agree that it's kind of there's some good and there's some bad in it. So much like Kathy said, with emotion and being in a beautiful place and wanting to stay in Maplewood. It's just once you start going down that path, and like we said, we have ordinances. There are crazy things on that street. You know, you can talk about the automotive, but I really think the lake is a concern for me, the environmental piece. And, you know, the driveway is definitely, like staff said, it's something you don't want to open that door and start having other properties doing the same thing. So at this point, I'm not really sold on it, but I think do we have people here that we can, are the people here that we can speak with? Okay.
We'll get to you in just a second, okay? Anything else, Councilmember Cave? You know, I would concur with your thoughts that, and in reading the materials, the primary reason was to want to stay there because it's a beautiful place, no doubt. But there are other alternatives, including remodeling the house that you have already. And looking at it as, I mean, I really, I don't believe that you can deny that having two properties is certainly an economic benefit. Well, but I mean, that's kind of the one of the points that I look at, making such a significant change to that neighborhood when there is such an economic gain potential for you. And such, I think we're heading down the wrong road in that particular area, and our ordinances have to mean something. And I think that you're asking for a pretty big change when there are other alternatives. I want to see if Councilmember Villavicencio has anything else that she'd like to add.
Not at this time.
Okay. Were you done, Councilmember Cave? Yes. Okay. Bruce and Denise Wold, would you like to approach and share your thoughts with us?
guess what we're trying to do is answer your questions, and I think the economic part, that has never come as far as our thoughts. To create the other lot means we got to do a lot development of the new lot, which any money we realize from the house is pretty much going to go into the development of the new lot. So it doesn't really buy us anything, even when we sell the house. It basically just recoups the cost due to the lot development. And that's running in sewer and water and utilities and stuff, and running it into a further distance back. So it's not economic for us. We could go out and buy a lot for $300,000, sell our house and realize maybe a couple $100,000, and we would actually be money ahead. So we've looked at all this stuff. We looked at remodeling the house, but to remodel the house would kind of destroy the character of the current house. We turned it inside and upside down, and we didn't find a good way to remodel it. But we then looked at lots. We priced out a lot on Como, which was $400,000, and now you're talking out of our range. So even we still have to cough up an extra couple $100,000 to buy that lot. So economic-wise, we don't feel it was in there. So we came back and looked at our lot, and so we got this 2.5 acres and this big 2-acre square right in the back of the lot that we can't access. Now, I could probably go home right now, and we could just start driving down the south side of the lot to access that, and no one would say anything. We're trying to do it in a neat way by getting this variance. And then we also looked at, went to all this work, and we have learned that it will accommodate the new house. And so rather than go out and purchase a lot elsewhere or buy a house elsewhere or remodel, we felt this came back to being a good idea. There's a lot of, and obviously there's other personal things that we would want to consider as well. And as far as blocking the view where we placed the house, it's not going to block the view of anybody's to the lake. Most people won't even know the house is back there. The one thing that could change the character of the neighborhood that you're looking at are lot lines. What we're looking at is visual result when it's done. The visual result when it's done is one new driveway. Because if people drive by, they're pretty much not going to see the house. They got to follow. I'm sorry, I'll take this off. They got to follow up the driveway, and then they can maybe see the house in the back or the garage in the back. But there's really not much change, visual change that will take place in the neighborhood.
As far as this setting a precedent for other people doing this, we have looked around, and most people are built towards the back of their house to where they're already right on the lake. And our house is built on the forward side of the lot, leaving all of that empty because the original owner had it all in park, planted in grass. People used to go back there and have weddings and so forth. As he got old and couldn't do it anymore, it was left to go. So now it's just a wild tangled mess of buckthorn and invasive species that we would like to have the ability to get back there, build a home, and then keep better track of it and take out more of the buckthorn or the rest of the buckthorn. We've got all kinds of other invasive species back there. We're well aware of the 75-foot buffer. We've had multiple developers call us stating that they are developers. They can see our lot online, and they're very interested in going in, and yeah, they would doze our house off. They would put a more convenient driveway in.
Duplexes
so they could put duplexes back there. And the size of the lot would support more than just a single-family dwelling, according to what your rating is. So this is what we're trying to stop, is that if we were able to put in a 34-foot wide driveway, just so that bigger trucks, emergency vehicles, there's no way firefighters can get back there right now. To get back there, and we can get back there, take out some of the bad trees, the buckthorn, all the fallen stuff, whatever, so that it does become a nice place again. our neighbors let their kids sled back there, which is fine with us. We don't care. But we would just like to be able to use the rest of our lot and live back there. That's all we're asking for.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any other questions? Because we
Council-
have thought long and hard about this.
Well,
Sure.
one other thing, you did talk about the life of the lake and so forth. That's something that our current house has no backyard with a lawn. It's basically goes natural, basic from the back of our house on. So currently, we don't dump really any types of phosphorus, whatever, the fertilizers and so forth into the lake today. You know, and going forward, well, we will be at the 75-foot setback, you know, to the wetland, to the shore, and that's been shown that we can comfortably do that. Now, the construction issue is a good question. I mean, that is a valid concern, but we also feel that's part of the construction process where we put that barrier in place. And so we would be working with the engineer and so forth. I think it was John Ducharme, I think the name of it is. Yeah, John Ducharme. I talked with him and so forth as far as grading and so forth to start kind of the ball rolling on that. So we're aware of pretty much, I think, of all of your concerns, and we've kind of turned them inside and out. We've discussed a lot with Elizabeth. I've discussed with Elizabeth a lot on various things, and she's helped me through and understand a lot of what we can and can't do. So,
And as far as lake health, Edgerton does have runoff it receives from the houses west of it. A lot of homes, residential, single-family, and multiple-family dwellings that do run down Skillman and run into the lake. So it's not the one resident or the few people around the lake whose grass goes right up to the lake. It's all those homes there to the west of us, between Skillman and the freeway, that also run down into the lake.
Well, there's currently a number of houses on the lake who their green lawn runs up right up to the shore of the lake. And that's all probably...
I'm going to find out if there's any other questions that the council has of you.
Sure.
Council members, do you have any other questions for Mr. and Mrs. Wold? Okay, then we're going to continue our discussion.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Did you want a copy of this? We did revive it. It was probably in your packet.
Yeah,
But it's revived, basic, just kind of.
This is it.
If you'd like to give it to the city
The
clerk,
city clerk, I can-
and she can add it to the
Keep
record.
it on there. Keep it on there.
Councilmember Juniman.
I have two questions for Mr. Thompson. I think it's for Mr. Thompson anyway.
Okay.
The 34-foot driveway, that's the entire strip that they need, correct? So it came up in a couple of comments in here, and I didn't get to check it out today. Is that where the services would run to the property?
Mayor and council, are you referring to like the utility connections?
Yes. Water, sewer.
Steve, Mr. Love can confirm that the utilities are in fact in Edgerton, but yeah, assuming that's where the utilities are, they'd have to make the utility connections on the properties that they own.
So would that mean the city would have to have an easement over part of this driveway to be servicing those things if something ran amok?
Mayor and council, no, they'd be private, so just like any other house,
They would be from the street all the way in would be private?
they would all be private.
Do we, maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, Steve or Jeff, but do we have a lot of driveways that are long and narrow like that with services in them that we could compare this to as far as what could happen?
The 1, 2 doors in the south of ours.
This is for staff, so, thank you. Mr. Thompson or Mr. Love, do you know?
Mayor and council, I don't have like an exact number or anything. I know that there are some other flag lot properties, and generally speaking, the utilities do run up that thin corridor that is where the driveway would be.
Thank you.
Just 1 second.
And then She made a comment about developers looking at the property and wanting to build duplexes. That's not possible under our current comp plan, is it, Mr. Thompson?
Mayor and council, the comp plan, it's not allowed under the current zoning. So R1 is exclusively a single-family zoning district. And if you look at that entire neighborhood, all of those properties are zoned R1. It would be a significant change to zoning to change it to a twin home development. So no, under current zoning, duplexes or anything more than single family is not permitted. And that all it would involve public street construction to serve homes back there, and very challenging on that
I
site.
just wanted to make sure that that was not possible.
Yeah.
Anything else, Councilmember Juniman?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Knutson?
Yeah, I was just wondering where the comments are about the environmental report, Councilman Juniman.
Remember where I saw it? I just saw the Environmental Commission. I was trying to find it before. I read it earlier.
Mayor and council, it was.
Councilmember, or Mr.
I can
Thompson.
clarify that. That was actually included in one of the neighborhood comments that said something about the environmental
I thought it was in staff report, though, too.
I mean,
Just wait 1 second. We'll get the answers here. Mr. Thompson, where do you believe that is?
Let me find it here real quick.
I saw it earlier today. Okay, so I'm not losing my mind.
Mr. Sable?
Mr. Thompson, I believe it's referenced in respondent number 6. Looks like about maybe the last 2 sentences. That sentence starts with, the environmental commissioner also commented.
So it's, page 121 of the packet, right?
Okay.
And this is one of the neighborhood comments. The second to last sentence, the environmental commissioner. I did look into that because I had the same question, because it's in the shoreline district, we are required to notify the DNR commissioner about this. We did notify the DNR commissioner, and they acknowledged receipt of it, but we never received any comments regarding the proposal at all. So we think it's referring to the environmental report that Ms. Finwall prepared, but that's just giving the technical information about our ordinances, did not make a recommendation, because that's a future step down the road once the house were to be built.
Yeah.
So.
My general,
Just a second. Mr. Knutson? Councilmember Knutson?
well, what I'm hearing is, you stated the Environmental Commission didn't like it or something like that, and they didn't. So, I mean, essentially, you've got, basically, we don't think that they can develop the property properly. We don't know that. So, I mean, generally speaking, they're guilty until proven otherwise, and that just isn't right. I'm still very concerned about this driveway situation on the street, but I just want to be clear that, that there isn't anything that suggests that these people can't meet building requirements and setback requirements and everything else.
Council members, Mr. Sable, I am going to defer to you for a moment. We have a 60-day period. If there's any additional information, if the council believes that it would be helpful to have some additional information, I believe that we can lay this over and we can continue to consider this. Is that correct, Mr. Sable?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. In conversations with Mr. Thompson today, the city deemed the application complete on June 29th. And so the initial 60-day review deadline is August 28th. So there is, within the window of time, the city council next meets, if I'm doing my math correctly, the 25th? No, 23rd. I couldn't do my math correctly. So there is an additional window of time. It does make for the approval tight. So the city also does have an option to take an additional 60 days beyond that if necessary. So there is a window of time to gather more information, both with either Mr. Love or Mr. Thompson, or in conversations with the property owner. So there is a window of time available, and Mr. Beatty is looking at me. I wonder if he wants to also weigh in.
Mr. Beatty.
Madam Mayor, Council, no, that's exactly right. We're within the first 60 days, and we do have the right to extend it for another 60 days if we notify the applicant before the expiration of the first 60 days. So you have plenty of time.
Council members, Councilmember Juniman.
One of the things I think if we're going to have additional time is we need to actually see in a more obvious way where the new house will be situated on this lot, and then where the buffer zones are in relationship to that. Because there is one of my questions was, and it came from reading just the pure environmental report from the planner, is that the house itself will not infringe on that. But I'm concerned about once you start doing excavating, disturbing the buffer zone. Because disturbance is disturbance. It doesn't matter whether if it's a corner of the house or what you had to do to put the house there. So we need a more graphic layout of that for sure.
Council members, is there any other information that you would like? And, well, let me start with, would it be the pleasure of the council to obtain additional information so that we can more properly consider this? Because, quite frankly, this is it's troubling to me, because I think that this is an important decision, and this is a decision that I believe we need to make on facts, not on emotions.
Right.
And not just because someone really loves their property, because aging is a part of life. We're all aging. And so what do we need to do about that? Because there is a big impact here. And I want to make sure that we make the right decision, because what decision we make will impact the other properties as well. And so I think there's some additional information, and I think, Mr. Beatty, or I'll ask you, what would be our process, if you want to instruct us, if we wanted to lay this over?
Madam Mayor.
Consider it further.
Madam Mayor, I think a simple motion to continue the item either to a date certain. I'm not sure whether the requisite material can be provided within the next 2 weeks, or whether you feel like you need additional time. But it would be simply a motion to continue the item until you receive the additional information.
Councilmember Juniman.
I found what I was looking for before about wetland buffer. It's under the wetland ordinance, back at page 119. And that's where I got my question. To ensure there is no grading within the buffer, the applicant shall submit a grading plan showing the grading line adjacent the lake. If there is grading within the required buffer, a wetland buffer variance will be required for the development of the new lot.
Right.
So that's why I want to see where this is going to be placed, because from this chair, that's the road to no return.
Okay.
I don't do wetland variances, setback variances.
Councilmember Knudsen.
I just want to make a comment that years ago I was developing a project in Maplewood, and it went on and on and on. And I had to make some changes. I had to make a lot of changes to make it work. It worked very well in the city. I'm suggesting to the property owners to really look deep at what you can do there as an alternative.
Okay. Then I would, based on my fellow council members, I would make a motion to continue this until our next council meeting on August 23rd, we're sure that's the date, to August 23rd, to give staff additional time to answer some of these questions and get more clarity for us, and for the owners, based on Councilmember Knudsen's comments, to seriously think about this, because this is what you're seeing here is this is very troubling to us. And we need some more answers for it. So I've made the motion.
Second, with one
We'll get to discussion. Friendly amendment?
Or longer if the staff
Yes.
needs it.
That, I just assumed that.
Okay.
We might actually have to do the additional 60 days that Mr. Beatty talked about.
Just want to make sure that was part
to get all
of
of
it.
this information. Okay, the motion's been made by Abrams. City Clerk Sint, did you get that? Okay. Seconded by Juniman to basically continue this until August 23rd to get some more answers so that we can consider that. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Juniman.
One of those letters. I don't know if we are in a position to do this or not, but the thought of, is there some way to have an easement on the part of the property where their current house sits that would make this more doable? as long as we're going to ask for things, we may as well make sure that we, at least from our standpoint, we've looked at that.
That's something for
That's up to
staff to
them,
talk
no.
about, that with the owners.
Okay, but I want to make sure we
Thank
do
you.
it. Thank you.
Councilmember Cave, did you have, this is
No,
an
I was
old-
just, yep.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, so, having made the motion and having a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. We're going to hold this over. Thank you. Going on to our next agenda item, a setback variance and conditional use permit resolution for Arcade Street North. Mr. Thompson, this is yours.
Oh, that's a can of worms when you're planning commission, you know.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have received a development application and land use application from the owners of 2134 Arcade Street North. So the property is on Arcade. It actually abuts Keller Lake, and you can see on the map it's a very long, narrow lot with a long driveway that serves it. But it has a single-family home today and a couple of outbuildings that are storage and/or garage workshop spaces. So it's a very large parcel. It's just under 2 acres in size. It's actually one of our estate lot zoning it's in one of our estate lot zoning districts. What they are proposing to do is really just build an addition to the existing home. So you can see on the plan here, kind of zoomed into, this is the existing house on the back of the lot, and then in the darker gray area would be the new addition, which would be added to the home. It would include, it's a single-story addition, includes a kind of a 2-car garage, as well as some additional living space on the house. What the applicant is requesting is first a setback variance for the addition from the south side property line from 20 feet down to 15 feet, and then the second is a conditional use permit for the total square footage of accessory uses on the site. Because of the existing outbuildings that are on the lot, with the addition of even a 2-car garage, it would exceed the, let's go back here. It would exceed the the maximum 2,500 square feet of accessory structures by 73 square feet. So that's the first request. That's a conditional use permit. So it's something we do allow by conditional use. And then the second, as I referenced, is the setback variance. What is unique, again, the same variance criteria apply on this application as the last, and staff has recommended approval of this, and the Planning Commission recommended approval, with a finding of one thing that's unique is that the site actually doesn't meet the side yard setback today. So the accessory building number 2, as you can see on this building, is actually located like 10 feet from that side property line. So there's a existing condition where the property already has a reduced side yard setback. So that is something that's unique about it. And really, on the conditional use permit side, again, it's something we allow, provided it just meets additional conditions. But in this case, the lot is so large that there's a recognition in the ordinance that as the lots get larger, we can approve more square footage of accessory structures, recognizing the larger size of this particular lot in terms of other properties within Maplewood. So those are the 2 applications that are before you. Again, the side yard setback and the conditional use permit. The slides are out of order here. And here you can see the addition. This is the addition here, the new 2-car garage on the right-hand side of the plan, and then the additional living space. So the entire addition is not garage. It's part living space, part garage. No comments or concerns received from internal city departments other than engineering, which will, as any building permit, want to see the grading and erosion control plans to ensure compliance with our ordinances. So we did notify the neighbor. There were a couple responses in there. Again, I did confirm today we did respond to those that had questions in them about staking of the garage and the trees. So we did respond to those neighbors, so they are aware of that. And the Planning Commission held a public hearing. As I mentioned, they did recommend approval of this application. And so we've included a resolution for the council's consideration, which would approve both applications for this project. So with that, Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any questions by the council? Certainly a little bit easier than the last one. Much easier. Okay, then is there a motion?
I will move the setback variance and conditional use permit resolution for 2134 Arcade Street North.
Second.
Moved by Ginnivan, seconded by Knutson. The motion to approve the side yard setback variance and conditional use permit to exceed accessory structure size standards for a proposed building addition at 2134 Arcade Street North. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And we go on to the purchase agreement with Barostos. Mr. Thompson, this is yours as well.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the city attorney and staff have drafted the purchase agreement for the sale of city property at County Road B and 61. We've actually, the council previously back in May, I believe it was, actually approved a letter of intent which outlines some of the preliminary conditions. But as a just brief background, this was actually a property that the city acquired, the entire parcel, as part of the 36 English project. Just given the amount of easement acquisition and work that needed to occur on this site, we just acquired the whole property back then with the intent, when we did acquire it, that we would construct the project, obtain the easements we needed, replat it, and then resell it for development. So we are at that point. We've spent some time, I know Mr. Love has spent a lot of time getting it platted and finally finalizing that with the county. There's been environmental remediation. So the site is kind of development ready, and so we've been working on marketing it. It is a tougher site to sell. It's just got streets on all four sides. I mean, it has streets kind of all over the place. It's a pretty small commercial lot. It does have encumbered by easements, but one of the early users we did identify as a strong potential for the site is a coffee shop. And so we've actually had two developers, two different entities that have been looking at it for that particular use, and we had the highest offer from this developer for the drive-up coffee shop kiosk. And so they would acquire the entire property. The details of the purchase agreement, it's a $400,000 purchase price for the land. There'd be $10,000 in earnest money with a 120-day due diligence period, which is what we've been seeing on most of the purchase agreements that the city's been doing recently. There is one 60-day extension allowed in the purchase agreement with additional earnest money, but then closing would need to happen within 30 days of the expiration of the due diligence period. The only additional thing for this one is that there was a broker involved in this transaction for locating the tenant, so there is a $16,000 broker commission that we'd be paying because they're the ones that secured this particular purchaser for us. So with that, we are recommending the approval of the purchase agreement. As with everything, it will come back to you. Yes, it will. It will require land use approvals for sure, and so you'll see the development application come before you in the future. But we do recommend approval, and Mr. Beatty and I are here to answer any questions that the council may have.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's exciting. You know, I remember when the city purchased this property, we purchased it for a lot of different reasons. And there was an old convenience store gas station on it, and it was a good decision at that time. And I always thought, just because of the nature and the odd kind of a shape, that it would be perfect for a coffee shop. And what a nice way to come up Highway 61 and we'll have the first scooters in, I guess, the metro area, which is really kind of nice. I've never tried their coffee, but I'm looking forward to it. But one of the comments that I wanted to make is that when the council purchased the property a number of years ago, and then we combined it with another piece of property that we already owned, or there was what was that, the other little odd shape? Mr. Thompson, do you remember?
I think Mr. Love might know the details on it.
Mr. Love?
Mayor and Council, it was a piece of property that we acquired from Menards with part of the
Okay.
road shifting over, along with right-of-way from MnDOT that was turned back to us.
Right, so it made this property more sellable. But one of the things that I remember the council talking about at that time was that some of the proceeds from the sale of the property, because we took the building down ourselves, would go into our EDA, because our EDA is getting some traction. And in here, it talks about that the proceeds will be dedicated to the city's road fund. Now, I do know that the city's road fund, that's where the money came from in order to purchase it. But at this point, I at least want to throw it out there to the council, because this was discussed as one of the reasons to purchase this, that some of the proceeds, and I'm not expecting the whole amount, but some of the proceeds, that was why the council agreed to purchase this. And anyway, I would like to have that discussion, that some of the proceeds, I think, should, instead of just going to the city's road fund, some of it needs to go to the EDA. That's my thought on it, because that was what was discussed with the council back when we purchased it. Councilmember Juniman, your light's on.
Yes.
Is that your recollection as
Are you
well?
home?
Yes, I'm home. I'm here. Yeah, I remember this. I mean, it was quite a discussion because, first of all, we wondered what in the world we were going to get there. And, and would we ever sell it? So I'm glad to hear this. But, yes, I don't know how we come up with a portion that goes to EDA, but we can knock it around, I suppose. I think we should do some because it was part of that discussion. And then I have a question, probably of Mr. Thompson. Is this going to be just a drive-through thing, or
is it a sit-down too?
Mayor and council, we haven't seen the final plans on it, but my understanding is it's just a drive-up.
So I'm not real good with spatial relations, but that corner's always been a nightmare, and we sort of lowered the nightmare when we did the Menards Road, sort of. Is this going to cause any traffic trouble for them more than for us? I mean, for the people that are going to put the coffee shop? That's my first question. Do we think?
Mr. Thompson?
We're in the early, discussions about the site plan. We know that access has to come from Maplewood Drive and not from, certainly not from 61 and not from B. So yeah, we'll certainly study the traffic patterns to make sure that, that they work with the existing configuration and don't adversely impact the street. But,
Thanks. I just don't, I don't want to get down the road and it's built there and then all of a sudden we're going, traffic is all snarled up because of that darn coffee shop. I mean, until
Okay.
I've sat here a long time, can't you?
Any other
There you go.
questions for Mr. Thompson or Mr. Love about the property? Mr. Sable, if we were to want to discuss the proceeds and where they get distributed, how would the council bring that back as a discussion point? Because I want to honor the decision of the council at that time that this was, as I recall, it was something a little bit unusual. We're buying, that location and combining it with other properties and Mr. Sable.
Mayor and council members, I think from the staff perspective, the simplest answer to this question was it came from one source of, pot of money, and that we would then replenish that same pot of money. I think it's the council's discretion to say where the money can be sort of reallocated. Part of the challenging, it's not even challenging, but if you remember the workshop conversation that we had earlier today, we talked about where to use and potentially leverage some American Recovery Act dollars. And part of that was to pre-fund some EDA activities related to single-family housing rehab and other opportunities. And so you essentially have, and I'm going to talk with my hands and I apologize, but you have now two buckets of money, some ARPA money, actually three, some surplus budget revenue, and then you have the sale proceeds from this parcel. It's really up to the council to decide where you would like, what fund balance you would like to put these in. The conversation that I would like to have with Finance Director Paul Seth is, what's the right mix? Is it $400,000 from this pot of money, or is it 200 from here and 200 from here, so long as the number equals the sale proceeds of 400,000? I think it's a council decision. I just don't know if there's an advantage to having one pot funded versus another. But I will say, in this instance, you have arguably the most flexibility you'll ever have, because you have
Right.
three pots of money that need to go somewhere.
It's perfect timing that all of this is coming together now, and we can make that decision. So if we direct you to talk to Ms. Paulseth to come back with recommendations, we're going to be talking about the budget again, and part of that can be part of the budget discussion. Is that,
Yes.
is the council amenable to that?
I'll just also offer, yes, I accept the direction to staff to have that conversation. But also, if you choose to change your mind, there is the ability to do interfund loan transfers by council action. So you really do have as much flexibility as you could want.
Great. Councilmember Knutson.
Yeah, I like the idea of going into the streets. I'd like to see it go into spot paving. I mean, that's kind of an immediate opportunity if that makes sense. And then the long term is the EDA. But the short term, we could get some streets improved. Just a thought.
We can discuss all of it after we get some input from Ms. Pulseth. Thank you.
I move the purchase agreement with Barostas LLC for sale of the property 2228 Maplewood Drive.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the purchase agreement with Barostos for the sale of property at 2228 Maplewood Drive. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the McMenemy Street Improvement Project. Oh, I'm sorry, the water. I almost skipped over the one that I'm presenting.
I see.
This is a much longer meeting than last time.
He's like, oh, all eyes on that one.
I apologize. And in fact, early this morning, I sent an email to Patrick Shea, the director of the St. Paul Regional Water, to get an update on water, because obviously we had some rain over the weekend, we're very grateful for the rain. And I have his email, and I wanted to give you the update. The Regional Water Service we had a special board meeting to talk about the drought conditions. And what's interesting is that the Water Board is licensed both by the state and by the federal government. And so when the water levels drop a certain level, then certain things need to happen, but it requires board action. And so that's what the board did. And what you see in front of you is really Maplewood and all of the other cities as well are being asked to adopt this recommended action. Now, this is an action that only kicks in based on the water levels. And so this is the update on our water, because it was anticipated that we were going to move in terms of the going from a voluntary to a mandatory conservation status, and that didn't happen because of the rain. And in order for there to be any type of fines, if we do go to that mandatory status, all the cities have to adopt these particular fines so that the Water Board can collect the fines. So this is what he said. Good morning, Mayor Abrams. The rain over the weekend was helpful. It looks likely we will stay above 1,500 CFS today. Currently, flow measurement is 1,670. If we drop Tuesday through Saturday, that would make Sunday, August 14th, the first restrictive phase, incorporating the 72-hour notice. So if we do drop in terms of the water flow, then it will go to that restrictive status, and then that will be then mandatory, even odd watering. And then you can tell from the chart that is included in here, if it gets even worse, we might go to a complete water ban. Hopefully, I don't think anyone is expecting that will happen, but we have to take action now in the event that it might happen, so that the Water Board can take that action. Right now, the earliest that we would ever go to a restrictive phase would be August 18th, and that's only if it drops. And that's not expected to happen right now. So the motion in front of us is to approve the resolution in support of the St. Paul Regional Water Services Board outdoor watering restrictions and fine schedule, keeping in mind that that's not, it's only in the event that the water in the river drops to that level that would activate these kinds of actions taken by the Water Board. Any questions? Councilmember Villavicencio.
I think it's important that we, watch the numbers and follow the science on this, totally. But one question I have is, how can we better inform the residents of changes or possible changes. So that way, when it does happen, it's not like, oh, it's a big surprise.
You know, that's a really good question. The Water Board is prepared with press releases. They did that when we went to the voluntary water restrictions right now. They would be in communication with all of the cities that use St. Paul Regional Water, and there would be a blast out with every kind of press release that we can get. There would be notices that would be sent out to people as this changes. So that's all in the works that the Water Board is doing right now in anticipation that we would have to take this action. Good question. And I can tell you, too, that in terms of, we had quite a discussion at the Water Board about the fine structure, and really the goal is not to try to fine people. The goal is to try to educate people, because we want people conserving energy. And I think that that really is the message. So you can tell, I mean, if there's a violation of if we go to this restrictive water ban, that, you know, it's an educational notice, then it's a written warning before there are any financial repercussions. But the goal is to get people on board and understand that we have to conserve our water. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, it's kind of a new thing for us. I mean, this is the land of 10,000 lakes. And we're talking about water restrictions. And so, but it's something that we have to do. We have to be prepared. And all of the other cities that use St. Paul Regional Water are doing the same thing. They're being asked to do the same thing that we're doing tonight. Councilmember Juniman.
Ask the people in California if you should do this or not. By the way, just before I came, the weather forecast through Sunday is for no rain. So, with that, I will move to approve the resolution in support of the St. Paul Regional Water Services Board outdoor watering restrictions and fine schedule when needed.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the resolution in support of the St. Paul Regional Water Services Board outdoor watering restrictions and fine schedule. Any further discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And now we move on to the McMenemy Street Improvement Project.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have a question.
Oh, Councilmember Juniman, do you have a question?
There are some older neighborhoods where people have their wells still running. So what do we say to them when they say, can I still water my lawn?
The Water Board has answers to all of that. There are a lot of different restrictions in terms of businesses. You know, there's even, I can tell you, I've learned that golf courses don't use St. Paul Regional Water. They have their own water supply. So all of that will become part of the notice.
Okay, so that would be in the notice?
Yeah, that will be part of the notice.
Some of our older neighborhoods, people still
Right.
have their wells. Okay,
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Love, we're on to your part of the agenda. Cope Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, McMenemy is first.
Mayor and Council, good evening. So we do have 3 reports here where we're going to be essentially talking about the same thing. It's bringing forward the permission to start the feasibility reports. Each project's a little bit different. I've got a very, very short presentation on each one just to touch on a few of those differences. So this first one is McMenemy Street. It's a mile long. It lies between Larpenter on the south and County Road B on the north there, just east of 35. The road has a current pavement condition index of 43 out of 100, again, where 100 is a brand-new road and 0 is in the worst shape. This project, you might remember, we were notified in June that we were chosen to receive local road improvement program funds from the state in the amount of $1,250,000. So a very good grant to help bring this project forward. The feasibility study, this is where we look at what should be included in the project, the cost of the improvements. We identify funding sources. We have outreach. We start our outreach with residents along the project, and we also establish a budget. With this project, because we're looking at doing 3 projects, and given the complexity with it being a state aid project and also the grants, we're looking at using the professional services of Bolton and Mink, who have recently helped us with our Arcade and County Road B project. With that, staff does recommend moving forward with the feasibility study, as well as authorizing the use of Bolton and Mink for professional services. I'm available. Oh, I should add in that this is a full reconstruction project, just to kind of give you the size of the scope. We're also would be looking at pedestrian improvements along this section as well.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions or comments? I certainly want to highlight the fact that this is the project where we were awarded a grant. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Sure, Mayor and Council. So this is part of a MnDOT grant. We were actually successful in getting this grant a few years ago for $1 million for the Frost Avenue. So it was a very, very competitive grant. I'm just very excited that we were chosen for it, and it certainly helps us bring this project forward to the residents. I wish I could remember off the top of my head the number of applicants there were, but it was really great news. I was pretty excited when we got it. So
Congratulations, That's a big grant.
Yep, that's
It
probably
helps
about a
lot.
quarter of the project right there.
Yeah,
So.
that is just amazing.
Yep.
Council members, we have two motions. Would someone like to make the first one?
I move to approve the attached resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study from McMenemy Street Improvements City Project 21-02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the attached resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for McMenemy Street. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. The second motion, someone like,
I further move to authorize the use of Bolton and Mink for professional services and further authorize mayor and city manager to sign the attached work order with Bolton and Mink to complete the feasibility study.
is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to use, to authorize the use of Bolton and Mink for professional services and to authorize the mayor and city manager to sign the work order with Bolton and Mink. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's go to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Love.
Yes, Mayor and Council.
Sorry, you looked a little panicked over there. Wait a minute.
both wearing blue
I'm sorry.
checkered.
We had so many of them already tonight. We'll give Mr. Love the last.
He's
couple.
looking like, what am I supposed to do?
Mayor and Council, so this is a map of the Cope Avenue project. The project is just about 1.09 miles. The average PCI rating is 41 out of 100 again, so kind of very similar conditions as what we're seeing out on McMenemy. One of the unique things with this road is west of Hazelwood, it's a two-lane road, and east of Hazelwood, it's a four-lane road. And so one of the things that we're going to be looking at is there some functionality change there that we might do as part of this project, whether that could be converting it from a 4-lane to a 3-lane with bike trail, on-street bike trails, or would it be a narrowing of the roadway? That would all be looked at as part of the feasibility study. Pedestrian improvements are anticipated as well. As you might know, as you kind of turn off of White Bear there by McDonald's, there's segments of sidewalks that don't connect. The idea would be to, connect those and make a continuous network. So with this project, we would be doing the feasibility study all in-house. And with that, Council, I recommend approval for ordering the resolution ordering the preparation of the feasibility study for Cope Avenue.
Is there, Councilmember Juniman?
Are you sure that registers a 43?
Mayor and
I don't
Council,
know,
yes.
when you drive down that street.
41.
41.
41, well, I'm thinking.
Big difference.
Yeah, big difference. Okay.
It's bad.
Mayor and Council, I would say that when you get down to the 40s and 30s, you're picking at straws of bad versus bad. So
Bad versus very bad.
Okay.
I move the resolution ordering the preparation of the feasibility study, Cope Avenue Improvement City Project 21-06.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson. The motion to approve the attached resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for Cope Avenue improvements. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Love.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so this is the third project. This is Jarvis Avenue. This is probably mostly a pavement reclamation project, really concentrating on the conditions of pavement out there. It's about 2.48 miles, and it has a pavement condition index of 33 out of 100. So again, just another area in desperate need of some help there. One of the unique things about this project is Ariel Street is a border street with North St. Paul. So we have to coordinate with them, and so I've been in discussions with North St. Paul. They're looking at potentially being able to do this project with us. We're doing the feasibility report for what you see highlighted here. They're going to be looking at maybe some potential other streets, and we might do a joint project with that. But we would be doing the feasibility report in such a way that if North St. Paul wasn't able to move forward with Ariel, that the rest of the project would move forward. So just so you kind of know that there's some nuances there, any kind of an agreement with North St. Paul would be brought back before the council for approval. So, but we're going to start our work as if it's our project here, but kind of planning for something maybe a little bit bigger.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
with that, Mayor and Council, I do recommend the resolution ordering the preparation of the feasibility study for Jarvis Avenue.
Thank you.
Well, why
Any
stop now?
Questions?
I move the resolution ordering preparation of a feasibility study of Jarvis Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 21-07.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the attached resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study for Jarvis Area Pavement Rehabilitation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Council members, we have no award of bids tonight, and the only thing left is for us to adjourn. Good night, everyone, and thank you for all of your hard work.